and welcome to the 2019 to 2020 Captain's Webinar for Kennesaw State University Intramural Sports. During this webinar, we will be going through the intramural sports staff introductions, reviewing captain responsibilities as well as program updates, how to navigate IM leagues and where to find divisions and where schedules will be posted, game facilities and appropriate parking locations, how to manage your roster and where to find schedules, sportsmanship and playoff guidelines, ejection procedures, and then we'll finish up with updating IM leagues and program contact information. My name is Mia Greiner, and I am the Graduate Assistant of Intramural Sports. DJ Doss is our Senior Coordinator of Intramural Sports. Together, we make up the program administrative staff. We work in the office to make sure schedules are sent out and that you have all the information to prepare for your games. Out on the playing surfaces, your main interactions will be with our student staff, starting with our site supervisors. The site supervisors will be wearing black polos and will have name tags visible. They will be the main point of contact and should be able to help you on any given night with any questions or concerns. In addition to our site supervisors, we have about 25 game officials who will be out there refereeing your games and monitoring score. As a captain, your responsibilities are listed on this screen. While all these are important, the key ones to focus on are keeping up with communication from our staff. We will consistently be sending out emails, texts, and even the occasional phone call, so be prepared to take that information and respond to our staff, as well as relay pertinent information to your team. You will also need to keep track of your team roster and utilize the eligibility guidelines listed on IM leagues to make sure all of your players are good to go before we get to games. You will be looked at as the liaison between our staff and your team, helping with any issues that occur with your team and/or spectators, as well as communicating with our IM staff about questions or concerns that may arise. In addition to these, you will be responsible for the payment of forfeit fees if needed. These will be charged to your student account at the end of the semester. Some program changes to be aware of. The sportsmanship average and playoffs. Sportsmanship average rating required to make playoffs with no penalty is now a 3.0. Teams between 3.0 and 2.67 will enter on probation. Any team below a 2.67 will be removed from playoffs. For the spectator request process, the spectator request form is now inactive and will not be used. Players who are spectators must purchase a day pass for guests who are over 17 and not KSU affiliated. Anyone taking classes or affiliated with KSU and have the Sport and Rec membership may attend without purchasing a day pass. For captains and players quizzes, the player quiz has been removed for ease of access to joining rosters. Captains will be required to pass the quiz still. Playoff bracket scheduling will no longer utilize a draw format. Instead, the bracket will be posted on the last week, filled in after the last season game. Some intramural sports program reminders. For the team creation process, teams will remain on the wait list until the minimum required number of players is met. Captains should rank divisions based on preference at sign-up, and your team will be automatically moved once the minimum required players is met. Roster locks will no longer occur during the season. Players who have not played in at least one game by the championship will be ineligible to play for that championship game. For forfeit fees, these will be charged through Banner to the captain's account. Roster caps. All sports now have a maximum on the team. This is similar to the check-in maximum. Accessing IM leagues. To access IM leagues, the first step is to go to mysportsrec.kennesaw.edu. On this home screen, you will select either Login or the Intramural Sports button, shown by the arrow. Once you hit one of these options, this next page should pop up. Utilize your KSU Net ID and password to log in. Once you log in, you can go ahead and select that Intramural Sports button, and it should automatically navigate you to Kennesaw State University homepage on imleagues.com. On the home page, this is where you will find handbooks and manuals, shown by the arrow. You can access sport rules in addition to program and participant handbooks in this link. You can also access default forms here, as well as on our intramural sports site, given at the end. If you scroll to the bottom of the home page, there is more information available. In addition to our contact information, you can find a link for IM League's live support in case you are having issues. IM League support typically responds rather quickly, so this can be a great tool if you are having issues with the website. When looking at your division, one of the important things to notice, shown by the arrow, is the F/D column. This stands for forfeits and defaults. If there is a 1 in the forfeit column, this means you could be charged a forfeit fee at the end of the semester. More than a 1 in the default column, you may also get charged for a forfeit. If you see that and feel that is an error, you can reach out to our staff to touch base on that, but be sure to keep an eye on that so that it is accounted for throughout the season. On your team page, this is what it should look like for you as a captain. As shown by the arrow on the left, you can click on Team Options. This will allow you to change the team name, team colors, put out announcements to your teammates, and more. This will also help you monitor your roster. The other arrow you see is pointing to the pending requests for the team. Clicking this will allow you to see who is requesting to be on your team, and you can either accept or decline to add them to your roster. Remember, all rosters have limits on people being able to join your team, so a pending request will pop up if this is not automatically adding players to your team. In terms of facility location and parking, this is a list of where you will be playing most of your games on campus. The Perch is part of the Sports and Recreation Park, next to Fifth Third Bank Stadium, so a bit off campus, but the address is listed there. The Betty Siegel SRAC is where we will play most of our indoor sports on the Kennesaw campus, and the Marietta RWC is where we will play indoor sports at the Marietta campus. The Marietta recreation fields are located next to the fraternity houses on the Marietta campus. These addresses listed here can also be found on the IM League's website if you go to the facilities link. This will also direct you toward a site map that will show exactly the location. When parking at game sites, games at the SRAC, RWC, and Marietta fields, you must park in a lot appropriate based on your parking pass. For information on your parking pass, you can visit parking.kennesaw.edu. If you are not parking in these locations based on your parking permit, you could be ticketed, booted, or even towed. Keep an eye on that and be sure you are parking in the right places. As far as games at the Perch go, no parking pass is required. The diagram to the right shows the designated parking areas, highlighted in red. Only park in these areas. Once again, any parking outside of these areas could be reason for parking services to tow, boot, or ticket you. For divisions and game schedules, teams are created and automatically placed on the wait list. Teams will come off the wait list once that minimum required player total is met. They will be auto-moved to a division based on the preferences you select as a captain when you create the team. It is important to select the divisions that work best for your team so that when you are automatically moved, you are able to play at that time. When looking at the divisions listed, they are sorted by location and the time of regular season play. For instance, MC Tuesday 6:30 p.m. means games are on the Marietta campus on Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. This will be consistent from week to week, with the exceptions being made for facility schedules or holidays, as well as playoffs, where these times could change. Regular season schedules are planned to be posted by 5 p.m. the Friday that registration closes. For team rosters, roster caps are listed per sport on IM Leagues and in the rules document. Once a player is checked in for a game, the player is part of the team's roster. Players cannot be dropped or switch teams once they have checked in for that game, even if they did not play. The only exception to this is for a serious injury to a player, we allow one player to be dropped from a roster with appropriate documentation. As far as the roster lock, there is no roster lock date. However, players must be checked in for at least one game to play in the championship. When checking in on site, all players must show a valid form of ID to check in. This must be in your hand. It cannot be a picture of any of the appropriate valid forms of ID. This includes a KSU ID or government-issued ID, such as a passport or driver's license. IDs not accepted will include a credit card with a picture or any other school ID, with the exception being Georgia Highland College students. Players must be on the roster at check-in. We do have the ability to look up players on site, but minimizing on-site signups allow us to stay on time on any given night. When checking in, teams must have the minimum number required to play checked in. If this is not met, the grace period will begin. We will go into what the grace period entitles in just a little bit. However, to avoid this, your team can arrive 10 to 15 minutes early. In addition to players, teams may have one coach on the team bench. Coaches do not need to check in, however, they do not have any abilities during the game. In regard to managing your roster, free agents are listed on IM Leagues. Free agents register on IM Leagues with individuals creating their own profile and listing the times they are available. This is helpful for teams needing bench players or extra players. When looking for free agents, make sure to look under both the men's/women's and co-rec divisions. Players may create only one profile as a free agent per league, so they may be listed in a single gender league but willing to play co-rec. As far as participant eligibility goes, students who are eligible must currently be enrolled in a degree-seeking program in at least 1 credit hour and pay the student recreation fee. This can be an opt-in for the student membership, and eligibility for students ends when they are no longer taking any classes. As far as faculty and staff go, they must be currently employed for KSU and must have either a Kennesaw or combined faculty-staff membership in order to be eligible. Ineligible participants will be listed as suspended, and these can be for a variety of reasons. Participants may have been ejected, long-term visitors, alumni, any students that have withdrawn from their classes or are taking a semester off, anyone in the College of Continuing and Professional Education, as this is not a degree-seeking program, as well as intensive English program students, accepted students who are not yet enrolled in classes, and then any spouses or other family members. In looking at player eligibility, ringers are players who have played at the varsity or professional level in the same or corresponding sport. Some examples of ringers that are not eligible is going to be varsity athletes who are listed on the roster during the current academic year for any college or university, and professional athletes who have signed a contract with a professional or semi-pro team in the past 5 calendar years. For eligible participants, this is going to be former varsity athletes who have not been listed on a varsity roster within the past 3 academic years for any college or university, or club sport members listed on Campus Labs, Owl Life, IM Leagues, or any other application at the time of the game. Remember, this is only applicable for the same or corresponding sport. So you may have a former varsity athlete within 3 years who has played football, but they are eligible for basketball without any issues or being considered a ringer. So how many ringers can a team have? This is going to depend on the sport. The total number of ringers on a roster is equal to or less than 50% of the total players on the playing surface at one time. So an example, softball allows 10 players on the field at once. The maximum ringer total on the roster will be 5, with the maximum participants on the roster being 20. As far as fraternity and sorority eligibility goes, the participant in question must be on the roster for the specific organization that the team name is also listed under. The fraternity or sorority must be in good standing with the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life. Any organization not in good standing may not play using the names or letters, nor utilize any other signifying marks. This includes wearing letters during play. When you are aware your team will be unable to meet the minimum players required for a game, you may submit a default form. Default forms can be found on the SportsRec website or on the IM League's homepage under the Rules and Handbook section. Captains must complete the default form by 12 p.m. the day of the game, but can also complete it further in advance. It is beneficial for teams to default because the sportsmanship rating is higher than the forfeit rating. Your team will also remain in the league, and no forfeit fee will be charged for the first default. However, each team only gets that first default without being charged. The second one will be charged as a forfeit. As far as forfeits go, some forfeit situations include a team not having enough players, a team ejection occurring due to sportsmanship, any ineligible players playing, 2 or more defaults in a season, teams dropping after scheduled for games, and all of this includes playoff games. When a team forfeits, a fee is charged to the captain's banner account. The fees are on screen as follows, with the charge being $40 for league sports, $20 for team tournaments, and $10 for individual or dual sports. Moving on to the grace period. This is utilized when at least one member of a team is checked in before game time, but the team does not yet meet the minimum number required to start the game. With that one player checked in, teams are given up to 10 minutes to meet the minimum required players before forfeiting the game and being charged the fee. However, teams will be penalized in accordance to the chart you see on screen. So for men's and women's leagues, with a team being 1 to 5 or 6 to 10 minutes late, it's going to vary based on the individual sport what a team will start penalized by. In looking at the grace period, you can note that this is not a cutoff for check-in, that players may still check in after that 10 minutes. Further details on this can also be found in the Intramural Sports Handbook. In looking at special game situations, winning or losing a game by default or forfeit, the scores per sport are listed in the Intramural Handbook, as well as the sportsmanship scores being reflected on screen. The winning team from a default or forfeit is awarded a 4.0 sportsmanship. The defaulting team will be awarded a 3.33, and any team that forfeits a game will be awarded a 2.33 sportsmanship. In looking at weather, announcements are made on IM Leagues to keep up with whether we are canceling, delaying games on a certain night. As far as games in progress goes, this is going to depend on the point in the game. On screen, you will now see the sportsmanship guidelines. Sportsmanship is a vital part to our program, as we want everyone to enjoy their time while participating. Site supervisors are responsible for giving the appropriate rating based on a team's actions before, during, and after a game. The basics of the scale are as follows. Any team receiving no sportsmanship infraction is eligible for some form of an A rating. A sportsmanship infraction can be defined as any sort of unsportsmanlike conduct, yellow card, or technical foul given. One sportsmanship infraction will put a team in the B range, 2 in the C, and then 3 or more sportsmanship infractions putting a team in the D to F range, with F being reserved for any team that forfeits due to sportsmanship infractions. As noted, sportsmanship is reflected by a team's actions before, during, and after games, and includes fan or spectator behavior. Most important to note is that one player can have a huge effect, such as eligibility for playoffs. As a captain, be sure to know your players and fans, and be prepared to act accordingly to any issues that may arise. Once again, sportsmanship is vital to the success of every intramural contest. Going into playoff qualifications, all teams are able to advance to playoffs so long as they have less than 2 forfeits and maintain that 3.0 or more sportsmanship average during the regular season. Any team in that 3.0 to 2.67 average will advance, but will enter on probation. We will go over probation on the next slide. As far as the draw for playoffs, games will now be automatically scheduled based on a tournament structure. Review the tournament bracket ahead of time the final day of games, and it will be filled in on the last day of games. Games for tournaments will begin at least 2 days after the last season games. As far as playoff sportsmanship and probation, being placed on probation for playoffs is when you have that 2.67 to 3.0 average entering playoffs. In playoff games, receiving a rating of 2.67 or lower will result in a forfeit. Any team receiving below 1.0 in a playoff game is subject to further disciplinary action. In accordance with the Kennesaw State University Student Code of Conduct, the consumption of any alcoholic beverage or use of any form of tobacco product is strictly prohibited. Any participant suspected of being under the influence of alcohol while participating will be removed from the game and suspended from all intramural sports for the remainder of the season. Additionally, players may be referred to the Department of Student Conduct and Academic Integrity. Players found using any tobacco products on the playing surface or game site will be ejected from the facility. This can harm the sportsmanship rating of a team, and any non-players will be asked to leave. It is important to note that all of these products, including alcohol, tobacco, and e-cigarettes, are prohibited in all parts of the game site, including parking lots. In looking at ejections, ejected players are immediately suspended. Any ejection involving the verbal threatening, striking, or physical abuse of any intramural sports staff member will be immediately suspended from all participation for a minimum of 1 year, in addition to being referred to the Department of Student Conduct and Academic Integrity for review. Ejections count as 2 sportsmanship infractions against the team. Once a player is ejected, they will need to contact the IM Sports office to set up a meeting. Sanctions for ejections do not begin until after meeting with the intramural sports administrative staff. Looking at IM leagues, this is going to be the official communication site by intramural sports and will be sent out via the IM League site. This is how we reach you and your team for any game cancellations or changes, as well as some opportunities through the program. Please make sure your contact information is up to date in your profile, as well as notifications being set up appropriately. On screen now, you will now see the different league sport offerings for both fall and spring. These will also be kept up to date on the IM League's homepage based on this semester. In addition to Phase 1 and Phase 2 of each semester, there will also be various tournaments held throughout the year. Once again, these are posted on the IM League's homepage depending on the semester.